Hello, my name is Elliot, 35 years old, living in a modern penthouse in downtown Boston where I can see the Charles River shimmering under the city lights every night. I am the chief operating officer of Green Harvest, an organic food company founded by my grandfather over 50 years ago. Now it is owned and managed by my father, Harold. The role of COO consumes nearly my entire life. Long days in the office, endless business trips, and sleepless nights finalizing international contracts. I've sacrificed many things, dates, vacations, and even personal dreams, all to keep the promise I made to my father that I would take Green Harvest to new heights. But today, on Thanksgiving, I just want a peaceful evening with my family. I drive my Tesla through the tree-lined streets of suburban Boston where our family home is located. The house, or rather a mansion, is a symbol of my family's success. It sits atop a low hill surrounded by perfectly manicured lawns and glossy white wooden fences. The mansion is built in a neoclassical style with towering white marble columns at the entrance, a red-tiled roof imported from Italy, and stained glass windows that sparkle in the twilight. Inside, the grand foyer is paved with imported Carrara marble, featuring a Swarovski crystal chandelier hanging overhead, casting light that glimmers like diamonds. The dining room where our Thanksgiving dinner will take place can seat up to 30 people, with a long hand-carved walnut table and chairs upholstered in deep red velvet. I step inside, carrying a bottle of red wine I carefully selected from my favorite wine shop on Beacon Street. The rich aroma of roasted turkey blends with the scent of cinnamon from the pumpkin pie my mother made, filling the air. My mother, Margaret, is bustling in the kitchen, her silver hair tied up in a bun, her hands deftly chopping vegetables. My father, Harold, sits at the head of the dining table, his reading glasses perched low on his nose, engrossed in a business newspaper. And Ryan, my 30-year-old younger brother, as usual, is scrolling through his phone, a half smile on his face as he watches some party video. It's a familiar scene, but today something feels off. I sense it, like the way the air grows heavy before a storm. "Elliot, you're here!" My mother looks up, her smile always warming me, if only for a moment. "Help me set the plates on the table, dear." I nod, setting the wine bottle down and getting to work. The white porcelain plates, each rimmed with 24-karat gold, are neatly arranged on the splendid walnut table. I glance at my father. He's still focused on his newspaper, but his brows are furrowed as if weighing something important. I want to ask, but I hold back. My father is always like this, reserved, unapproachable, and I've learned not to disturb him in such moments. Instead, I turn to Ryan, lounging with his legs crossed on the velvet-upholstered chair, his silk shirt glinting under the chandelier's light. "Ryan, lend a hand," I say, trying to keep my tone light. "The table's full tonight, and Mom could use some help." Ryan raises an eyebrow, not looking up from his phone. "You're always so serious, Elliot. Relax, it's Thanksgiving. Mom has the staff, doesn't she?" I bite my lip, suppressing my irritation. Ryan is always like this, lazy, carefree, and entitled. But I don't want to argue, not today. I've worked 80-hour weeks this past month to finalize a new export deal for Green Harvest, and all I want is one peaceful evening. Just one. Green Harvest is my family's pride. My grandfather, an Irish immigrant farmer, started with a small bakery and gradually built it into a multi-million-dollar organic food business. My father, Harold, expanded it into a national brand with products like jams, cereals, and organic snacks sold in supermarkets across America. And me? I'm the COO, the one behind the strategies that took Green Harvest to international markets. For the past 10 years, I've poured my sweat, tears, and youth into the company. I graduated from MIT with dual degrees in engineering and business administration, turning down offers from major corporations to work for the family. I've sacrificed dates, trips, and personal dreams to ensure Green Harvest's growth. And my father always said, with a proud look in his eyes, that I would be his successor. "Elliot, you are the future of Green Harvest," he once told me, clapping my shoulder with a firm voice. I believed him. I believed in that promise. Dinner begins. The table adorned lavishly with a white silk tablecloth imported from France, flickering candles in silver holders and a golden roasted turkey at the center, surrounded by silver platters of steamed vegetables and mashed potatoes. Besides our immediate family, there are a few distant relatives, aunts and uncles from my mother's side, and some of my father's trusted business partners. I sit next to my mother across from Ryan, with my father at the head of the table like a king on his throne, dressed in a bespoke suit from Savile Row. We raise our glasses, toasting the holiday season, and laughter begins to fill the room. But inside, I feel an inexplicable unease. Perhaps it's the way my father's eyes seem colder than usual, or how Ryan keeps texting under the table, a cryptic smile on his lips. "Harold, you should tell the story of how Grandpa started the business." Aunt Susan, my mother's cousin, speaks up, breaking the silence. I never tire of hearing it. My father smiles, but the smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Oh, Susan, that story's been told too many times. Today I'd rather talk about the future than the past." He pauses, setting his wine glass down, and I notice the entire table looking at him. My heart beats faster, though I don't know why. "The future?" I ask, my voice soft but unable to hide my curiosity. "What do you mean, Dad?" My father looks at me, then around the table, as if choosing his words carefully. "Green Harvest has come a long way. From a small bakery, we're now a global brand, but I'm not getting any younger. It's time for me to step back and let the next generation take over." The table falls silent. I feel the blood in my veins heat up, not from excitement, but from a sinking premonition. My father once said I would be CEO when he retired. He promised. But why is his gaze avoiding me, shifting toward Ryan? "Ryan," my father says, his voice low and clear, "you will be the next CEO of Green Harvest." The clatter of cutlery dropping onto a porcelain plate rings out somewhere. I'm not sure whose, because my mind seems to stop functioning. Ryan? Ryan, who's never worked more than 20 hours a week, who spends money like water on lavish parties, who knows nothing about strategy or management. Ryan, my younger brother, will be CEO. "Dad, what did you say?" I hear my voice hoarse, as if it belongs to someone else. I thought... "Elliot," my father interrupts, his voice cold as ice. "The decision has been made. Ryan is the right choice." I look at Ryan. He's smiling, a triumphant smirk, as if he knew this was coming. My mother, sitting beside me, clutches her napkin, her face pale. The others at the table begin to whisper, but I can't make out their words. My ears are ringing as if the world is underwater. "The right choice?" I repeat, my voice trembling. "Ryan? Dad, I've worked day and night for Green Harvest. I expanded the markets, secured international organic certifications, doubled the revenue. I've sacrificed everything. You said I would be the one to take over." My father looks at me, his eyes devoid of emotion. "Elliot, this isn't the time for arguments. The decision is final." I want to shout, to slam the table, to demand why he betrayed his promise, but I just sit there, silent, feeling my heart being crushed. My mother places a hand on my shoulder, but I don't respond. I look around the table, seeing pity, curiosity, and awkwardness in their eyes. Ryan is still scrolling through his phone as if none of this concerns him. Dinner continues, but I no longer smell the turkey or hear the laughter. I eat mechanically, my mind swirling with questions. Why? Why did Dad choose Ryan? What did I do wrong? I've dedicated my entire life to Green Harvest, from my days as an MIT student working in the company's tiny office on weekends to sleepless nights finalizing contracts. I turned down offers from major corporations, gave up relationships, all to prove I was worthy of my father's trust. And now, he chooses Ryan. Ryan, who's never taken anything seriously except his parties. After dinner, as everyone moved to the living room with its blazing marble fireplace, I pulled my father aside to a corner where opulent oil paintings adorned the walls. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Dad, I need an explanation," I said, struggling to keep my voice calm. "Why Ryan? You know he's not capable of running the company. You said I was the right one, you promised." My father looked at me, his eyes cold and unyielding. "Elliot," he said slowly, as if speaking to a child, "there are things you don't understand. Green Harvest is a family legacy, and a family legacy is for blood." I blinked, confused. "Blood? What are you talking about? I'm your son." He turned away, not answering immediately. Then he said, his voice so low I could barely hear, "Ask your mother, Elliot. Ask her the truth." My heart seemed to stop. I stared at him, waiting for an explanation, a smile to say he was joking. But no, he walked away, leaving me standing there in the lavish living room corner with distant laughter and chatter from the others. I turned to find my mother, seeing her standing alone by the stained glass window, gazing into the night. Her shoulders trembled slightly, as if she'd overheard everything. "Mom," I called, my voice hoarse. "Mom, what did he mean? What's the truth?" She turned, her eyes red and brimming with tears. "Elliot, oh my boy." She choked, raising a hand to cover her mouth. "I never wanted you to know. I never wanted you to know." "Know what?" I nearly shouted, panic rising in my chest. I stepped closer to her but stopped, afraid that if I touched her, we'd both shatter. "Mom, tell me. What did Dad mean when he said I'm not his blood?" She stepped back, her back pressing against the window frame. She turned her face away, staring into the darkness outside as if it could hide her secret. But then she turned back, her eyes full of pain. "Elliot, you are everything to me. You've always been my light, but you're not Harold's biological son." The floor beneath me seemed to collapse. Not Harold's son? Not my father's son? I shook my head, unwilling to believe, unable to believe. "Mom, what are you saying? How is that possible?" She began to cry, tears streaming down her time-worn cheeks. "Back then, your father, Harold, and I weren't happy. He was unfaithful, Elliot. He had affairs, long business trips, disappearances with no explanation. I tried to endure it for the family, for our reputation, for Green Harvest. But one night, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood there, frozen like a stone statue, listening to her every word. Her voice trembled, but she continued, as if unburdening herself of a weight she'd carried for 3 decades. "It was a winter night, 36 years ago. Harold and I had a terrible fight. He was drunk, admitted to being with another woman, and laughed at me when I cried. I left the house, wandering the streets of Boston, not knowing where to go. I ended up in a small bar, just looking for some warmth, some comfort. And there, I met someone. He was a waiter, young, kind, and he listened to me when I felt the whole world had turned its back. I let my emotions take over. Just one night, Elliot. One mistake. And then, you were born." I heard every word, but my mind was trapped in a storm. A waiter? A one-night mistake? I, Elliot, who had lived my entire life believing I was Harold's son, the heir to Green Harvest, was the result of a moment of weakness? I wanted to scream, to deny it, but my mother's eyes, filled with regret and pain, told me it was true. "When did Harold find out?" I asked, my voice turning cold as if I were speaking to a stranger. "When did he know?" She lowered her head, her voice barely a whisper. "He suspected from the start. When you were born, you didn't look like him. I hoped he wouldn't notice, but Harold, he's not a fool. He had a DNA test done when you were young. He knew you weren't his, but he didn't say anything. He kept quiet, and I didn't dare speak. I stepped back, feeling as if someone were crushing my heart. Harold knew. He'd known for years, maybe since I was a child, running after him in Green Harvest's small office, listening to him talk about my grandfather and the family's dream. He knew, but he let me grow up in a lie. He let me believe I was his son, that I was the future of Green Harvest. And worse, he used me. "Then why?" I said through gritted teeth, anger rising like a flame. "Why did he let me slave away for Green Harvest? Why did he praise me, promise me I'd be CEO if he knew I wasn't his son?" My mother looked at me, her eyes breaking apart. "Because Harold is a cold man, Elliot. He saw your talent, your intelligence, your hard work. He knew you could take Green Harvest to new heights, and he used that. For the past 10 years, you expanded markets, secured prestigious organic certifications, doubled revenue. You did everything he couldn't. But now he's achieved his goal. Green Harvest is strong, and he wants to hand it to Ryan, his real son. I felt my blood boil. Harold, the man I called my father for 35 years, was a cunning fox. He'd used me like a tool, a machine to build his empire. The praise, the pats on the shoulder, the promises of a future, all part of a charade. And now, with Green Harvest at its peak, he cast me aside, as if I were worthless, unworthy of the family legacy. And Ryan? I asked, my voice trembling with rage. Ryan, who knows nothing but partying and spending money? He chose him just because he's blood? My mother nodded, tears falling again. Harold has always favored Ryan. He says Ryan is his true son, the one to carry on the family bloodline. He doesn't care if Ryan is capable or not. To Harold, blood is everything. I turned away, unable to look at her anymore. Not because I was angry with her, I didn't know if I was, but because I couldn't bear the truth. I'd lived my entire life in a lie. I'd sacrificed everything, my youth, love, dreams, to build something that was never mine. Green Harvest, this lavish mansion, this family, all an illusion. Elliot, I'm sorry. My mother stepped forward, trying to touch my arm, but I stepped back. I didn't want you to suffer like this. I love you. You're everything to me. I shook my head, feeling hot tears well up, but I held them back. Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you let me live in this lie? Because I was afraid of losing you, she whispered, her voice breaking. I was afraid if you knew the truth, you'd leave me. I couldn't bear that thought, Elliot. You're the reason I wake up every day. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. My mind was a whirlwind, sweeping away every emotion. Love for my mother, anger at Harold, the pain of betrayal, all mixed together, making it hard to breathe. I turned and walked out of the living room, through the marble-floored hallways, past the expensive oil paintings, past the chandelier sparkling like diamonds. All this extravagance, all the glamour of my family now only made me feel suffocated. I opened the front door and stepped outside. The cold Boston air hit my face, but I felt nothing. I stood on the stone steps looking out at the oak-lined street where I used to play as a child, where I thought I belonged. But now I wasn't sure anymore. I didn't know who I was or where I belonged. I heard footsteps behind me. My mother ran out, her silk scarf slipping from her hand, fluttering on the steps. Elliot, don't go, she called, her voice panicked. Please stay, we can talk, we can figure this out. Figure it out? I turned back, my voice colder than I expected. Figure out how, Mom? Dad used me for 10 years and you knew and said nothing. Now what? What am I supposed to do? Keep pretending I'm part of this family when Dad chose Ryan just because he's blood? She sobbed, but I couldn't stay. I couldn't bear to look at her, at the house, at everything that was once my world. I walked down the steps, got into my car, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw my mother standing there, a small figure before the massive mansion door. She called my name, but I didn't turn back. I drove through Boston's familiar streets, but the city now felt alien. The skyscrapers, the Charles River, the lights, all seemed to belong to someone else, not me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed to get away. Away from Harold, away from Green Harvest, away from the lie I'd lived for 35 years. When I stopped at a riverside parking lot, I realized I was crying. Not loud tears, but the quiet kind, streaming down my cheeks, carrying the pain of betrayal. Harold, the man I called my father, had known the truth for years. He let me work like a draft horse, praised me, promised me, only to discard me when he no longer needed me. He was a cunning fox, a cold calculator, and I was just a pawn in his game. I sat in the car, watching the river shimmer under the moonlight. I thought about the years gone by, the sleepless nights at Green Harvest's office, the job offers from major corporations I turned down, the dates I canceled because I was too busy. I'd sacrificed everything for the family, for Green Harvest, for Harold's promise. And now, I was left with emptiness, But in that emptiness, a small flame began to burn. I didn't know what it was, anger, pride, or simply the determination not to let Harold win. I wiped my tears, gripped the steering wheel, and told myself this story wouldn't end like this. If Harold thought he could cast me aside and move on as if nothing happened, he was wrong. I would prove I didn't need Green Harvest, didn't need this family to succeed. I started the car and drove back to my downtown Boston apartment. That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window looking out at the city and began to plan. I would resign as COO. I would leave Green Harvest, leave the family, and start over. I didn't know where I'd go or what I'd do, but one thing I knew. I wouldn't let Harold and his betrayal define my life. The morning after Thanksgiving, I woke up in my penthouse apartment in downtown Boston, feeling as though the entire world had changed. Sunlight streamed through the large glass windows, but it brought no warmth. The previous night's words from Harold, "Ask your mother, Elliot. Ask her the truth," and my mother's tearful confession echoed in my mind. I wasn't Harold's son. 10 years of dedication to Green Harvest, sleepless nights, personal sacrifices, all exchanged for his cold betrayal, the cunning of an old fox. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and drafted a resignation letter. A few concise lines. I, Elliot, hereby resign from my position as Chief Operating Officer of Green Harvest, effective immediately. No explanations, no farewells. Harold didn't deserve any courtesy from me. I hit send, emailing the board of directors, closed the laptop, and felt a weight lift from my shoulders. But at the same time, a larger void opened in my chest. I decided to leave Boston. The city with its skyscrapers and shimmering Charles River was now just a reminder of what I'd lost. I contacted a real estate agency and put my penthouse up for sale, a modern apartment with luxurious furnishings and a panoramic view of the city. It was valued at over $1 million. Within days, a wealthy buyer purchased it for $1.2 million. The money was enough to start a new life. After the sale, I packed a few clothes, my laptop, and a framed photo of my mother and me from my MIT graduation day. I blocked Harold's number, Ryan's, and even my mother's. I wasn't entirely angry with her, not completely, but I couldn't face her. Not after she'd hidden the truth from me for 35 years. I needed distance, a place to heal. I chose Montana, specifically a small town called Willow Creek, nestled among golden barley fields and snow-capped mountains on the horizon. I'd read about it in an article described as a peaceful haven where time seemed to stand still and people lived close to nature. I rented a small log cabin on the town's outskirts with a gray tiled roof and a porch overlooking endless fields. It was nothing like my Boston penthouse, but as I stepped inside, breathing in the scent of pine and fresh air, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe here I could find myself again. In my first days in Willow Creek, I tried to immerse myself in nature to forget the past. I jogged each morning along a trail by the river, feeling the crisp air fill my lungs. In the evenings, I sat on the porch watching the stars twinkle in Montana's sky, trying to empty my mind. But memories of Harold, of Green Harvest, clung to me like a shadow. Some nights, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop and browsed the internet, searching for news about the family company. An interview in a business magazine made my heart clench. Ryan, in an expensive suit, smiling brightly for the camera, talking about his new vision as Green Harvest's new CEO. The article praised his lavish inauguration ceremony, held right after Thanksgiving with champagne and congratulations from partners. I stared at the photo of Ryan standing beside Harold, both smiling as if I'd never existed. I slammed the laptop shut, my chest heavy, but I told myself, I won't let them define me. One afternoon, while buying coffee at Clara's Brew, a cozy little shop with the scent of freshly baked cookies, I overheard a group of young people talking animatedly in a corner. They were around 25 to 30, wearing flannel shirts and jeans, discussing a startup project for sustainable food production. I hadn't planned to join in, but when I heard them mention regenerative lentil farming and direct-to-consumer distribution, I couldn't resist. I approached, introduced myself, and asked if I could join their conversation. The group consisted of 3 people: Mia, an ecologist with brown hair tied high and eyes full of passion; Leo, an agricultural engineer with a shy smile but vast knowledge; and Ava, a marketing expert with a persuasive charm that reminded me of my younger self. They were developing a startup called Earthroot, aiming to produce organic, eco-friendly food and support local farmers. But they lacked capital and operational experience. I listened, feeling a familiar flame ignite within me, the fire of passion and ambition I thought I'd lost after Thanksgiving. After weeks of meetings and discussions, I decided to invest in Earthroot. With over $1 million from the penthouse sale, I became the primary shareholder, contributing $800,000 to the project. But I didn't just want to be an investor. I wanted to be hands-on, to dig into the soil, to build something from scratch, as I had with Green Harvest, but this time for myself. Mia, Leo, and Ava welcomed me to the team, though they were surprised to learn I'd been the COO of a multi-million-dollar company. "You left Boston for this?" Ava asked, raising an eyebrow. I just smiled, avoiding details about my past. "I wanted a fresh start," I said, and they didn't press further. We started working immediately. I leased a small plot of land on the outskirts of Willow Creek and built a warehouse for production. Mia designed a regenerative farming system. Leo developed water-saving irrigation technology, and Ava crafted Earthroot's brand with a logo of a green tree rising from the soil. I took on operations, negotiating with suppliers and seeking customers. Those early days were exhilarating. We worked late into the night, ate pizza in the warehouse, and laughed about our dream of making Earthroot a national brand. But startups are never easy. The following months brought countless challenges. An unexpected frost ruined our first lentil crop, costing us tens of thousands of dollars. A major distributor rejected our contract because Earthroot wasn't established enough. Worst of all, we argued. Mia and Leo clashed over farming methods, and Ava felt I was too controlling when I demanded detailed reports. My $800,000 investment was dwindling, and I began to worry. I'd poured everything into Earthroot: money, time, hope. If it failed, I'd lose everything, again. Just when I thought things were falling apart, a letter arrived from an investment fund called Horizon Fund. They offered to invest $5 million in Earthroot on the condition of anonymity. The letter stated they were impressed by our vision and wanted to support us without interfering. I read it over and over, unable to believe my eyes. The money was enough to expand production, hire more staff, and build a small factory. Mia, Leo, and Ava cheered when I shared the news. We opened a cheap bottle of wine, sat in the warehouse, and for the first time in months, I felt we had a chance. With the new investment, Earthroot began to thrive. We launched our first product line, lentil jams and organic cookies, at local farmers markets, then expanded to supermarkets in Montana and Idaho. Ava's social media campaign made Earthroot a beloved name among sustainable food enthusiasts. Mia and Leo refined our farming methods, earning us a national organic certification. I worked day and night, but this time it didn't feel like the pressure of Green Harvest. Here I was working for myself, for Mia, Leo, Ava, and for Willow Creek. 3 years have passed since I left Boston, left Green Harvest, left the family and the lies that shaped 35 years of my life. In Willow Creek, Montana, I found a new rhythm, slow but filled with meaning. Earthroot, the startup I built with Mia, Leo, and Ava, has become a beloved name, with batches of lentil jam and organic cookies gracing supermarket shelves from Montana to Idaho and recently Canada. Each day I wake up to the scent of fresh grass and the sound of birds chirping over the fields, feeling like a new person. But despite my efforts to immerse myself in nature, in work, in the smiles of my Willow Creek friends, there are quiet moments when old wounds resurface, reminding me of Harold Ryan and my mother. One late autumn afternoon, as the barley fields in front of my cabin glowed golden under the fading sunlight, I sat in Earthroot's modest office, really just a corner of the warehouse with an old wooden desk and a laptop. I was reviewing financial reports, smiling as I saw this month's revenue had doubled compared to last year. Earthroot was on the right track, and I was starting to think about expanding to European markets as I once did with Green Harvest. But those thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. I was surprised. In Willow Creek, visitors were rare at this hour, especially as dusk settled in. I stood, opened the door, and found a woman about 60 years old, her salt and pepper hair neatly pinned up, wearing an elegant wool coat. She gave a gentle smile, but her serious eyes made my heart beat faster. "Mr. Elliot?" she asked, her voice low and warm. "Yes, that's me," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady despite a growing sense of unease. "And you are?" "I'm Karen," she said, extending her hand. "Karen Sullivan, a representative of Horizon Fund. I have something for you." Horizon Fund. The name jolted me. 3 years ago, when Earthroot was on the brink of failure, this fund injected $5 million to save us. That investment allowed us to build a factory, expand production, and achieve today's success. But I'd never known who was behind Horizon Fund. Their letter only mentioned an anonymous investor, and I hadn't had the time or resources to investigate further. Karen handed me a cream-colored envelope, thick and heavy, with my name, Elliot, written in elegant handwriting. "This is something you need to read," she said, her voice soft but laden with meaning. "And I think we should talk." I invited her in, gesturing to an old wooden chair by the kitchen table. I brewed 2 cups of tea, trying to keep my hands from trembling as I set the envelope on the table. Something in Karen's eyes, a deep empathy, told me this wasn't just a business meeting. I sat down, staring at the envelope, my heart tightening as I recognized the handwriting. It was my mother's. I opened it, finding a long letter written on delicate silk paper, along with a small photo of my mother and me from my MIT graduation day. Her radiant smile in the photo now brought a lump to my throat. "Karen," I said, my voice hoarse, "this is from my mother?" She nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "Margaret was my best friend from college. She passed away 3 months ago from heart disease. Before she died, she asked me to deliver this letter to you, and she wanted me to tell you the truth." I gripped the letter tightly, my mind reeling. My mother was gone? 3 months ago? I didn't know. I'd blocked her number, cut off all contact because I couldn't bear the pain of thinking about her, about what she'd hidden from me. But now, knowing she was gone forever, I felt a larger void open in my chest. "Karen, please tell me," I whispered. "What's the truth?" Karen took a deep breath, as if preparing for a long story. "Margaret was always tormented by what happened between you and the family. After that Thanksgiving, when you left Boston, she nearly broke down. She told me she'd made the biggest mistake of her life by hiding the truth about your biological father. She loved you, Elliot, more than anything, but she didn't dare reach out, afraid you wouldn't forgive her." I bowed my head, feeling hot tears well up. I remembered my mother standing on the mansion's steps, calling my name as I drove away. I'd left her without a goodbye, too hurt to stay. But now, hearing Karen, I began to understand that my mother had suffered just as much. "Margaret didn't want you to feel tied to the family," Karen continued. "She knew you'd chosen Montana to start over, and she wanted to help. She sold her personal assets, some Boston properties, family heirloom jewelry, to create Horizon Fund. The $5 million investment in Earthroot came from her. She wanted you to have a fresh start, a chance to build something of your own, free from the shadow of Green Harvest or Herald." I looked up, stunned. Horizon Fund was my mother? She'd been quietly watching over me, supporting me even when I didn't know. I remembered the days when Earthroot was nearly bankrupt, when we lost our first lentil crop, when distributors rejected us, when my team and I argued to the point of exhaustion. Without that investment, we wouldn't have made it. My mother had saved Earthroot, saved my dream without needing me to know. "She came to Montana once," Karen said, her voice softening. "Just once, about 2 years ago. She stood at a distance watching you work in the fields with your team. She said you looked happy, strong, and she didn't want to intrude. She returned to Boston that same night, but she never stopped following you. She read every article about Earthroot, saved every photo of your products. She was proud, Elliot. So proud. I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears fell onto the letter, smudging a few words. I opened it, trembling, and began to read. My mother's handwriting was still elegant, but I could sense the tremble in each stroke as if she'd written it with her whole heart. My dearest Elliot, if you're reading this letter, I'm likely no longer here. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry for hiding the truth about your biological father, for letting you live a lie for 35 years. I was afraid of losing you, afraid you'd no longer see me as your mother, but I was wrong, and I'll carry that regret to my last breath. You are my light, Elliot. From the day you were born, you brought me joy I'd never known. I watched you grow, intelligent, hardworking, compassionate, and I knew you'd achieve great things. When you left Boston, I thought I'd lost you forever. But when I saw you building Earthroot, saw you smile amidst Montana's fields, I knew you'd found your path. I can't undo the mistakes of the past, but I wanted to help you build your future. Horizon Fund was my way of being with you, even from afar. I want you to know I always believed in you, always loved you more than anything in this world. Live well, my son. Let go of the past, let go of the pain Harold and I caused. Keep doing what you love, because that's how you shine. P/S. I love you, forever. I folded the letter, tears streaming down my cheeks. I was no longer angry with my mother. The pain of that Thanksgiving, of the betrayal, lingered, but it faded, giving way to sorrow and gratitude. My mother hadn't just given me life. She'd given me a new chance, even when I'd turned my back on her. She'd been there for me, in her quiet, loving way. Karen sat silently, giving me space for my emotions. Finally, I looked up, wiping my tears. "Thank you, Karen," I said, my voice hoarse. "Thank you for bringing me this letter." She gave a sad smile. "Margaret was my best friend. She wanted you to know you were always everything to her." After Karen left, I took the letter to the barley field behind my cabin. A gentle autumn breeze made the stalks sway like waves. I sat on a large rock, rereading the letter word by word. I felt a release, not just for my mother, but for the past. I forgave her, not because she needed it, but because I did. I needed my heart to be at peace, to keep living. A week later, I booked a flight to Boston. I didn't tell anyone, not even Mia, Leo, or Ava. I just needed to do one final thing to close the past. When the plane landed, I rented a car and drove to a cemetery on the outskirts of Boston where my mother was buried. The cemetery was quiet, with rows of maple trees blazing red under the autumn sun. I found her grave, a simple stone marker engraved with her name. Margaret, beloved mother. I knelt, placed a bouquet of white daisies on the grave, and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. I love you too." I stood there for a long time, letting the breeze carry away my final tears. Then I got back in the car and drove past the familiar road to the family mansion. The house was as splendid as in my memories, with its marble columns and white wooden fences. I stopped the car at the gate, looking in but didn't get out. I saw light from the dining room, where that Thanksgiving 3 years ago had changed my life. I didn't know if Harold and Ryan were still there, and I didn't want to know. I had Willow Creek, Earthroot, a new family built not on blood but on trust and companionship. I turned the car around, drove toward the airport, and felt lighter than ever. My mother had given me a new chance, and I wouldn't waste it. I would live, not to prove anything to Harold or Ryan, but to become the best version of myself. 2 years have passed since I received my mother's letter. 5 years since I left Boston Green Harvest, and the family that shaped 35 years of my life with lies. In Willow Creek, Montana, I've found not just a job, but a purpose. Earthroot, the startup I built with Mia, Leo, and Ava from those early challenging days, has grown into a $50 million enterprise. Our lentil jams, organic cookies, and sustainable cereals now line supermarket shelves across the US and have expanded to Europe, England, France, and Germany. Each time I see the Earthroot logo on an international store shelf, I feel a quiet pride, not for the money or fame, but because I achieved this without Green Harvest, without Harold. My personal life has blossomed in ways I never imagined. A year ago, I married Mia, the ecologist with her high-tide brown hair and passionate eyes who helped me build Earthroot from the ground up. We met during late-night work sessions arguing over farming methods and gradually realized we weren't just partners but soulmates. Mia brought a balance to my life that I never had in Boston. She taught me to pause and watch the sunset, to listen to the wind through the fields, and to love without fear of being hurt. We have 2 children, Lily, a 3-year-old girl with a smile identical to my mother's, and Noah, who just turned 1, always clutching my finger when I hold him. Every evening as I sit on the porch of our log cabin watching Mia play with the kids on the lawn, I feel a peace I once thought unattainable. But even in happiness, I can't fully escape the past. Sometimes alone in Earthroot's small office, I open my laptop and browse articles about Green Harvest. I don't do it often, but a part of me is curious, or perhaps wants to know if Harold and Ryan have faced consequences for what they did. Then I see headlines that make my heart race. Green Harvest loses major contract with national supermarket chain. Family company faces mounting debt. CEO Ryan criticized for poor management. The articles describe a crumbling Green Harvest, mass employee resignations, partners pulling investments, and a tarnished brand reputation. Ryan, with his lavish lifestyle and lack of vision, has driven the company into a dead end. One article even quoted a former employee. Ryan doesn't know how to run a company, he's only good at partying. If Elliot were still here, things would be different. I close the laptop, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Part of me wants to laugh. Harold chose Ryan for blood, and now he's watching the family legacy fall apart. But another part, the part my mother left behind, feels a pang of sorrow. Green Harvest was my grandfather's dream, something I poured my youth into building. Seeing it collapse, even if it's no longer mine, still stings. One spring morning, as I checked a new shipment in Earthroot's warehouse, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw an unfamiliar Boston number. I almost didn't answer, but a gut feeling made me press accept. The voice on the other end made my blood freeze. "Elliot, it's your father," Harold said, his voice low and weary, lacking the cold authority of that Thanksgiving 5 years ago. I gripped the phone, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Harold," I said, not calling him Dad. "What do you want?" There was a long pause. Then he spoke, his voice tinged with desperation. "Elliot, Green Harvest is in trouble. We've lost major contracts and the banks won't lend anymore. Ryan can't handle it. We need you to come back. You're the only one who can save the company." I almost laughed, not out of amusement, but at his audacity. "Save the company?" I repeated, my voice turning cold. "You said I wasn't blood, not worthy of Green Harvest. You chose Ryan. And now?" Harold sighed, and I could picture him in his old office, glasses slipping down his nose. "Elliot, I know I was wrong. I was too stubborn. But Green Harvest is the family legacy. You were once part of it. I'm sorry for what happened. Come back, son. I'll share the profits, even give you the CEO position." His apology sounded hollow, like a hastily scripted performance. Before I could respond, another voice came through the speaker. "Elliot, it's Ryan," my brother cut in, his tone urgent. "Look, I know I screwed things up, but we're family. You can't abandon Green Harvest. Help us, please." I stood in the warehouse, surrounded by the scent of barley, listening to pleas from the 2 people who betrayed me. I remembered Harold's cold gaze when he said I wasn't his son. I remembered Ryan's triumphant smirk when he was named CEO. And I remembered my mother, who quietly sold her assets to help me build Earthroot while Harold and Ryan didn't care. "Family?" I said, my voice sharp as a blade. "Harold, you made it clear I wasn't family when you chose Ryan for blood. Ryan, you did nothing but spend money and ruin the company. Green harvest isn't my responsibility anymore. You chose this path, now face the consequences. Elliot, please, Harold tried, but I cut him off. No, I said firmly. I have my own family here, Mia, Lily, Noah, and the Willow Creek community. I have Earthroot, something I built from scratch without lies or betrayal. You're no longer part of my life. I hung up, my heart pounding, not from anger, but from liberation. I once thought I needed Green Harvest to prove my worth. But now, standing in Earthroot's warehouse, surrounded by sacks of barley and Mia's laughter drifting from the fields outside, I knew I didn't need them. I had found my path. I stepped outside, breathing in Montana's fresh air. Lily ran to me, hugging my leg, and I scooped her up, laughing as she pointed to the fields. Daddy, look, the plants are growing. Mia approached, Noah asleep in her arms, and I felt a wholeness no money or fame could provide. Green Harvest might collapse. Harold and Ryan might face the consequences of their arrogance and favoritism. But I no longer cared. I had built a new life, a new family, and a legacy of my own. I looked out at the fields where barley swayed in the breeze and knew that my mother somewhere was smiling.